I started during the last part of the last segment to try to get to this movement now by the toilet rat to suspend federal funding to UCLA, a public university. Everything he's attacked so far has been a private university. UCLA is, I don't know if it's the largest university system, University of California, if it's the largest university system on the planet or in the United States, but I think it is. So now this filthy pig is going after UCLA on the basis of his bullshit claim that UCLA is sanctioning or allowing or promoting anti-Semitism. This from one of the biggest anti-Semites in America, Donald Christ Trump. And as I pointed out, the chancellor of UCLA, Julio Frank, is a Mexican Jew. And what the toilet rat is talking about is the frozen funds now, over $500 million that UCL officials said yesterday is the first official tally of what is at stake for UCLA. And according to Politico, the sum is far more than what was initially estimated when the Department of Justice announced a few days ago that it was investigating the school for, get this, violations of civil rights laws because of the allegations it has failed to protect Jewish students and faculty from anti-Semitism. And this is where I know a couple of Jewish organizations in this country have stood up and said, what the fuck? Well, they don't say fuck, but they have said essentially, what the hell is the toilet rat talking about? What is he talking about? Because there were protests on so many campuses about the slaughter of Palestinians by this Nazi fucker Netanyahu. That's what this is all about. And of course, the toilet rat wants to back up two people before anybody else on earth, two people that are very important to him, Netanyahu and Putin. And all three of them taken together are three of the biggest threats to civilization that exist right now. Well, okay, you think that's hyperbole. Well, it may be, but anyway, in a letter sent yesterday morning to faculty and administration at UCLA, the chancellor, Julio Frank, confirmed that this grant money, which is meant to fund hundreds of research projects, is, quote, suspended and at risk. Chancellor Frank wrote this, quote, if these funds remain suspended, it would be devastating for UCLA and for Americans across the nation, end quote. This goddamn toilet rat, he hates intelligence. What has he said before? I'm a genius. This fucking guy has the genius level of a fucking doorknob. I mean, talk about an ignorant savage, right? But, Trump likes to present himself as being this bright person. He can't put a goddamn sentence together, much less a paragraph. But I digress. James Milliken, who recently took over as president of the entire University of California system, hasn't said anything about how defiant or conciliatory University of California officials plan to take in upcoming talks with Justice Department officials over the toilet rat's allegations. So Mr. Milliken, who is not a Jew, is not sure what kind of a stance to take. Are they going to tell the toilet rat to fuck off, or are they going to tell the toilet rat, where do I sign? And in a statement, James Milliken, president of the University of California system, reiterated that UCLA had agreed, quote, to engage in dialogue with the federal administration. Engage in dialogue with a lying son of a bitch like Bondi or Trump or the rest of these slime? He added, quote, our immediate goal is to see the $584 million in suspended and at-risk federal funding restored to the university as soon as possible, end quote. See, the toilet rat has figured out something with because of his criminal mind, because he is such a petty fucking grifter who has changed his petty grifting into monumental extortion. I mean, this guy has blossomed the way every fucking mafia don had wished they could have done. And the toilet rat found a perfect target. Universities. He hates them to begin with because they turn out smart people, and he is a dumb bastard. But also, it gives him a chance not only to satisfy that rage he has against higher education, but he discovered early on when law firms and universities started to fold as soon as they got word that the toilet rat was coming after them, he discovered something. Trump did. God damn, this is easy. This is easier than being the racist fuck that I am. All I have to do is threaten them, and they give me money. Well, when you are a creepy son of a bitch like Donald Trump and you learn something like that, what are you going to do? Stop? Please. Now, James Milliken, the president of the entire University of California system, according to Politico, did push back somewhat against the threat to cut research funds. And some resistance to the idea that UCLA has allowed anti-Semitism to develop unchecked on its campus. Who believes that? Does the Jewish chancellor of UCLA, Julio Frank, does he believe that? I think it was his parents or his grandparents fled from Europe and moved to Mexico, became Mexican citizens. Frank, of course, now I guess he has dual citizenship, but he is still a Jew. And would Julio Frank, F-R-E-N-K, would Julio Frank just sit idly by while anti-Semitism raged across his campus? Well, of course not. James Milliken, president of the whole system in California, said, quote, "These cuts do nothing to address anti-Semitism. Moreover, the extensive work that UCLA and the entire University of California system have taken to combat anti-Semitism has been ignored," end quote. And Chancellor Frank also remained kind of non-committal. He said in his letter that, quote, "We are doing everything we can to protect the interests of faculty, students, and staff and to defend our values and principles as we actively evaluate our best course of action," end quote. Chancellor Frank, I would hope that you do not allow yourself to be forced into an extortion situation where this Christian devil, this beast, Donald Trump, is able to reach into your system of grants and research funds and steal them. Please don't let this happen. Now, according to Politico, what is hanging over UCLA's strategy going forward are the fates of other high-profile universities that the toilet rat has targeted with these kinds of bullshit cases, all because of the student protests last year over what Netanyahu was doing to the Palestinian people. Old men, pregnant women, children. I've shared with you some of the most graphic shit that I ever thought I would say in a podcast. And I know you know from your own research what is happening, what Netanyahu is doing to these innocent people. They are innocent civilians in the same manner that the Jews who were marched aboard boxcars and sent to Auschwitz and Treblinka and Bergen-Belsen and then murdered, they were innocent too. So the student protests last year had to do with that, the slaughter of innocent people. And believe it or not, of course you do believe this, but there were all sorts of students, Jews, not Jews, Muslims, Christians, agnostics, liberals, conservatives who joined in the protest. But the toilet rat, and this probably came from that little Nazi fucker who whispers in his ear, Stephen Miller, who said, "Hey, boss, I see a way we can make a lot of bread. Come on, listen up, listen up." And the toilet rat listened up. Columbia University, which faced a loss of $400 million in research grants, they decided to negotiate with the administration, and Columbia agreed to pay $200 million and to make some changes in campus policy, including to the curriculum. Brown University took a similar path. Brown University agreed to pay $50 million, and Harvard, Harvard, which the chancellor of Harvard, if he's called chancellor there, is also a Jew, first forcefully rebuked, I love that word, the toilet rat's claims. And now, from what I've read, the last I've read, Harvard has kind of dropped off the map for a while, but it's my understanding that Harvard has yet to resolve the case because Harvard is involved in, God, I hate this word, with these bastard Trump bastards, negotiations. Harvard is in negotiations with this fascist prick, Donald Trump. Negotiations. How much extortion is Harvard going to agree to? Now, UCLA attracted this criminal fucker, Donald Trump's attention, according to Politico, last week, when UCLA agreed to a $6.5 million settlement in a lawsuit with Jewish students and a professor who alleged that UCLA did not do enough to protect them from harassment and discrimination by pro-Palestinian protesters last year. Now, what does that mean? UCLA did not do enough to protect them from harassment? Discrimination? I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Of course it exists. This is the United States. If you're a Jew or a Muslim or a gay person or an immigrant or God forbid, a person of color, of course there are going to be people who will scream obscenities at you, who will accuse you of being everything but human. Of course, because this is the United States of America. This is a fucked up country where it concerns that sort of thing. But does that mean that the university, UCLA, permitted it, allowed it, encouraged it to the point where they had to settle for $6.5 million in a lawsuit? Well, the toilet rat, the stench of that agreement filtered into the toilet rat's fucked up nose, and he went, "Oh, what do I smell? More money. Oh, my God." And like some kind of a bird dog or something, his head immediately swiveled to the West Coast. Oh, there's somebody out there I can go extort. So he took the first step by suspending $500 million in research funds. Now, according to Politico, on the same day that this settlement was made between UCLA and a professor and a few Jewish students, the settlement. On the same day, the Bondi bitch, the Department of Justice, announced its allegations against UCLA, and the Bondi bitch, Pam Bondi, threatened that, quote, Department of Justice will force UCLA to pay a heavy price for putting Jewish Americans at risk and continue our ongoing investigations into other campuses in the University of California system, end quote. This Bondi bitch will do whatever her Christ, Lord Jesus, Donald Trump tells her to do, and she'll do it with relish, with glee, because she's another one, an ignorant fucking savage who is now the Attorney General of the United States. And in an earlier statement, Chancellor Frank, who, like I said, his family is Jewish and fled Nazi Germany, Chancellor Frank said, quote, anti-Semitism has no place on our campus, nor does any form of discrimination. We recognize, he went on, that we can improve, and I'm committed to doing so, end quote. So, when is the toilet rat going to come up with suspending grants, federal grants to universities where gay students are harassed? Or trans students are harassed? Or Muslim students are harassed? Or immigrant students are harassed? When does that happen? That's never fucking going to happen. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.